So let's get into it.
I've made every single one of my clients cry.
Telecoms, sales.
HR is about creating environments where people feel safe.
Are you asking me why social media just moves so quickly?
What the hell's going on with the bank?
Can we move on?
It's not something that I want to put out there.
I would put it out there.
Great.
So welcome to the show, Ben from Kalibr8. Give me a quick 30-second on what Kalibr8 is for the people that don't know what Kalibr8 is. 60-second elevator pitch.
Well, what Kalibr8 is a cloud optimization and analytics engine platform that's been designed from the ground up for the specific use case of the MSP.
Okay.
So what the goal of the product is to allow the MSP to bring all of their customers across all the three major clouds initially, and analyze them, understand them, explore, discover, and drive optimization and FinOps strategies throughout their customer base, but be able to see and do everything in a single pane of glass, either individually for a single customer or for all the customers. So what we do is we bring automations that can be rolled out across all their customers. So they're never in a situation where they have to log in to each customer and do the same thing over and over again, trying to find all of those opportunities to drive more value. Look, ultimately, it's all about cost saving, but you know, that's a goal everyone's going to have. But what value can you bring around all of that? And that we think about that a lot in terms of what Kalibr8 does. And it's really in terms of making sure that we have value to the MSP, not just in saving money on day one and plugging the holes of waste within a cloud environment, but making sure that they never happen again and that they never reappear. That's where the product needs to, consistently deliver and develop.
You get that because you were an MSP, right? Before you went to Kalibr8. So why the shift from MSP to Kalibr8?
Well, what was happening in the MSP market is the end users were trying to solve the problem, right? So what was happening, especially in the pandemic, people's cloud bills, it's a great example of when a lot of people got bill shock very quickly. And
so many people went to cloud when they didn't. I had this conversation earlier on. I have clients that would like to have their server in a corner and stroke it and go, yeah, my data's here. I don't want cloud. I don't trust cloud. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hit and they were like, that stuff we've been talking about for the last 2 years. Can you do it like tomorrow? Can you put me into the cloud?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And everyone was panicked, right? Even from an MSP perspective, nobody knew,
what the hell was going to happen
over the next 12 months. So everything went into the cloud. And then obviously, it was all done in a rush. So it was highly inefficient. Now, the cloud was inefficient already. Like if you look back at all the studies, we're still at between 30 and 35% of public cloud is waste.
Wow.
And a $700 billion market, that's the GDP of New Zealand this year, is likely going to deliver no value in the public cloud market. Now, it's not just the big three, that's the broader market. Yeah. But, that's a huge amount of waste. It will but at the same time, it's consistent. Tools are out there to try and solve the problem. So why is the problem not being solved? Yeah. Because the market's growing so fast. The waste is growing with it. Literally, the market isn't catching up with the problem of where waste is. But if you look at what the CIOs say out there, they all say 8 years in a row, their number one initiative is optimizing cloud costs and spend. So why is it number one for 8 years? Because it hasn't been solved. The tools that are there are not doing the job.
Yeah, they're not keeping up with it.
And one of the big problems is that the tools that are out there are not designed for the person whose job it is to do that, which is the MSP. Right?
Yes, because they're designed for enterprise, bigger fish.
Exactly. Exactly. They're all designed in a single tenanted architecture to be sold to an enterprise.
Yeah.
And then, it's not just about being able to optimize the cloud. It's about saying to the MSP, well, you need to be able to do pre-sales faster. You need to be able to do cloud efficiency assessments faster. If it's going to take you 3 or 4 months to do it, by the time you finish it, it's out of date. So it's about being able to react and to deliver these services in a proactive and a fast way. And so when we do other tools that are around analysis and around optimization, we always think about its application and other applications in terms of the lens of an MSP, because it's their problem we're trying to solve. It's value to them we're trying to bring. So we're not just a vendor that actually says, oh, we want to sell to MSPs.
Yeah.
We're actually a vendor that was created
From an MSP.
from an MSP background.
So you understand the pains that we go through.
I'd like to think so. Not like I wasn't always in the daily activity of what was going on in a managed service floor, but I understand what needs to go into a managed service catalog and how you go about that and how you arrive at that at an effective service that you're bringing into your catalog and what needs to be done to make it work. So we have an understanding of the broader things that make managed service provider products succeed, but at the same time, we stick to the knitting, right? Where we are looking at a cloud environment, we are seeing this much waste, and what we say to MSPs is like, look, we're going to plan for success. We are going to find savings.
Yeah,
it's highly unlikely that we won't. So what are you going to do with those savings? Because as far as I'm concerned, that's not about reducing consumption. It's not about reducing the Microsoft bill. What it's about is freeing up budget that's right now sitting in waste.
Yeah.
And we're wondering what value we can turn that waste into. That's the process that the MSPs should be thinking about in terms of areas like this that have high levels of inefficiency and waste. What can I do if I can deal with this problem? What else?
What can we spend the budget on? Because from an MSP's perspective, from my perspective, a lot of my clients that are in Azure, they have a budget for their IT and they give me their budget on a yearly basis. Some of them on a like quarterly basis, they'll flick the budget a little bit, but usually on a yearly basis, this is my budget for IT for the year. And some stuff I can't do because it doesn't fit inside the budget.
Exactly.
Whereas the way I'm looking at it is if I can make a cost saving here and save, I can then spend that on something that they did or I really want them to do that's going to benefit them and help them.
Yeah.
So it benefits. What trends have you seen in the market? So how many MSPs you got on board now?
We're approaching 36. So we're a few months into aggressively selling the product.
Yep.
We're a software developer. We're never done. But, there were times where we tried to go and we probably, glad now that we didn't.
Yeah.
We wanted to have a certain suite of services and capabilities before we fully went to market. And we had that a few months ago. And it's worked. If I look at the events I was doing 3 or 4 months ago, the effectiveness of, those conversations, the amount of people who take demos pales in comparison. Why? Because we've got the Navigate product, and that's the automated wizard that does discoveries and gives rich reports that can be QBRs, they can be cloud efficiency assessments.
Nice.
And it was the pro services angle to what we're doing with the MSPs that I think changed the conversation, because we're no longer looking to just be an optimization tool, we're now a productivity tool.
Yeah, and that helps us as MSPs be able to push forwards.
Yeah.
What trends from those 36 clients that you've got or MSPs that you've got on, are you seeing any kind of similarities in like what they're saving and what they're not on the cost, but on the wastage? Is it kind of the same areas for all of them, or?
Yeah, there's the big ticket items, right? So a lot of people let their reserved instances expire, which is a little bit stupid,
and then roll back to the monthly.
And sometimes it's down to just a lack of understanding of whose responsibility it is to be checking this stuff. And sometimes there's a lot of contracts that never even defined. It was always kind of like a bespoke decision to put something on a reserved instance or not, So the way I look at it is reserved instance is a big one. It is clearly a big one. Like, we've got customers that have saved nearly 40% overnight because they just put their systems on a reserved instance.
Yeah, because there's massive discounts when you do that.
Why they didn't know is not our problem. We spot that if we look at it and we see it, and that the system tells them, they can make a decision. Now, there's lots of reasons why people don't do reserved instance. It depends on the length of projects or something else. There's a reason why it's not going to be there in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
But there's an awful lot of companies that have very stable environments that don't change, and for some reason they're still on pay as you go. So about 20% of all inefficiency in the cloud is actually down to people not on reservations and being on pay as you go when they shouldn't be. Wow. So it's a big point of efficiency. The other thing we see is clearly, especially at the end user level, is orphaned resources, right? Idle resources, stuff that's there that, somebody sent an email to say, can I shut this down, and never got a response. And then the thing sat there for the next 9 months. All of those things. So proactive alerting around idle resources through that. That's a very, you would think it's not as big a problem as it is, but I've seen customers, end users that have dozens of disks because the person in the end user didn't realize you have to manually delete the disk when you get rid of the VM and the NIC.
Yeah.
And so when they don't know that, they get rid of the VM and think, you know,
it's
I've
gone.
dealt with the problem, and then just start piling
Old
up.
school mentality of if you kill a VM.
But like, you know, once they know, and then they're empowered and it won't happen again.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. The other areas where we see, I would say a lot of it is probably the biggest one that's the hardest to spot is right sizing. You know that something needs to be right sized, but you're not 100% sure what it needs to go to. And you know what we do in our platform is we automatically see all the right sizing opportunities. We can tell you exactly what's an elephant in a pond or what's an elephant in a lake. Right. And we will not only tell you need to right size it, we'll tell you what you should right size it to and what the savings will be.
That's half the battle.
Yeah.
So working inside of your Microsoft's sizing is like.
There's one other big aspect that people sometimes do as well is, we're going to be doing this for 6 months, so we won't bother buying an RI, we'll just stay on a pay as you go. Right, well, that's fine, but if you're only going to rent a car for 6 months, would you leave the engine on in the garage overnight?
No.
Right, so the optimizations around scaling and scheduling and automating that, and so no one has to worry about it. That's very big, especially if you're doing a project with very expensive servers. Like, so there's a lot of people out there doing 6-month-long projects that might have NVIDIA servers in there, you know, and so you turn that off just at the weekend, you're saving 29%.
Yeah.
You turn that off at night at the weekend, that's 70% that you're not paying.
Yeah,
so
it's
really important that people don't just see scheduling and scaling as something that happens to long-term things. It happens whether it's a day or a year.
And can you do that from inside your system once it's connected?
So you can.
Because Azure's scheduling is freaking nightmare.
It's really easy. So what we do in our system, if you want to schedule one or more across one or more customers, you can just create the schedule. We have a little calendar. It's done by half-hour increments. You literally drag and drop when you want it on, and then all the other times it's off. You hit save, it's done.
Wow.
You just put in what region you're in, what your time zone is, done. And on the scaling, you just choose what the system you are on to the system you want to go to, or vice versa, depending whether it's a scale up or a scale down. You do the same thing. You choose what it is. Now you can save that schedule and apply that schedule to any resource,
any of the tenants inside the
resource instance level, resource group level, subscription level. You can then attach a label to that schedule and then use that label across all your customers. So anything that has that label or is in that label's bucket is in that schedule. So you do something once, you can save yourself dozens of repeats.
And that's the killer for all MSPs.
You can do you can understand and do a schedule and have it up, running and automated in 30 seconds.
Wow. That's a game changer. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
I know I've got 6 engineers, and the amount of time they spend in scheduling and doing other stuff.
But I guarantee you, it's your most experienced Azure engineer that's doing any optimization and analysis. Always. So that's the problem. My MVP is looking at reserved instances, trying to work out which ones should be on a pay-as-you-go or on a reserved instance. That's not the job of your MVP.
No.
So, you know, and that's what I always say. If I could take all of this stuff, give you a platform, and it's a junior engineer out of college that's doing the daily optimization within that service, would that benefit you? Well, I haven't met anyone who said no yet.
Yeah, of course.
And they want to have it proven.
Yeah, of course.
But
always got to prove
I'm happy to do that. I give NFRs to all MSPs that buy through PAX8.
Yeah.
So they get a 45-day free NFR. If they're on board any customer in that 45 days, it renews.
Okay.
So, you know, we put skin in the game with them because we're confident when they see the product that they'll use it. If they want to use it on a customer, they get a 30-day free trial. We do no term contracts. So again, you know, we're confident that the value of the product will mean it's retained. And hey, if we're not confident of it and we want to do some kind of 12-month contract, well, like, it's not necessary because, you know, either if the product works, people can just cancel in a contract anyway. They might pay a month, but there's no value in that.
But if a product works, what I found, I suppose, being an MSP for the last God knows how long, if a product works, we keep it forever because it works. It does what it says on the tin, and if it's saving us money at the same time, that's even better because that's a twofer, right? technology-wise, because we're now in the era of AI, are you integrating? Is it on the roadmap to integrate
Mm-hmm. Yes.
AI?
More in the
in
smaller
what-
language models. So what
Okay.
we'll start off is the ability to actually ask the platform questions around optimization. I want to see this subscription versus this subscription in Q1 last year versus Q1 this year. That sort of stuff. It'll be asking the analytics to. And so we have live dashboards and custom analytics. So what we'll do is we'll bring AI around that so that you don't have to fill in loads of forms and fields to create your custom analytics. It'll be more within that. It'll be more within asking questions around trends and insights of the environments that have been onboarded. As we start to move towards what I would say is away from the analysis and the analytics of cloud optimization and say FinOps side of it, then AI will start to come in more on the autonomous optimization and auto balancing and all of these things that are
One of the key focuses as we go through the year and into the following should be on cybersecurity for all small businesses. At TCCB, we take cybersecurity very seriously. We are part of the UK government scheme to try and get as many people Cyber Essentials certified as possible. With that in mind, we have teamed up with X26 Cyber Consultancy so that they can give our viewers and subscribers key benefits in cybersecurity consultancy. Please follow the link in the description below. And now, back to the podcast. Enjoy.
that are coming in. Now, there's a lot of those things that are out there with some of the cloud providers. They're highly expensive and they're difficult to implement.
And don't know if they're that secure either.
Don't really know if they're that effective either.
Well,
That's the problem. But I think if we start with something we know will work, and then we work to build in the AI into the product in an area that we think will add a lot of value, like there in terms of, well, now I don't need to show you a recommendation of the optimizations you should be doing. You know, you can use the AI to just, assign those recommendations and those actions to the AI, and then they automatically roll out all of that, and you don't have to do anything in the platform, just approve it. That's kind of where we want to get to in terms of the recommendations don't just come from the cloud provider or from a historical analysis. We're able to bring things that we can't easily measure and optimize, like memory or energy usage, other things that are in there. Because, with GPU servers, for example, we look at memory and we talk about the CPU and all of that, and it's highly expensive to do it. But the energy element of that
is massive.
Of the cost base of that VM is massive. So if you understand the consumption in all of its granularity, we feel that there's a way to bring automations through AI into just driving a better product. But I don't think it's essential. Like, we can do an awful lot right now with machine learning. We could do an awful lot right now with automation for our use case. But I do think that autonomous decision making in terms of balancing optimization and scheduling, that there's a big space there. But we need to be very measured how we implement that and how we roll that out.
Yeah,
in
because
the product.
security is obviously, I'm going to imagine with you guys, security is a massive factor, because if you're linked into, let's say I've got 100 tenants and you're linked into the back end of Azure for all of my tenants, that's security on that. So what do you guys do around security? Well, how do you handle that aspect?
Well, actually, what we do to actually do our job is pull in the metadata.
Okay.
So that's it. We don't even need higher amounts of like contributor levels or anything like that. So we work on a policy of, operating on the least levels of permissions possible.
Amazing.
Right? We've actually kept things out of the roadmap purely because we didn't want to go down the route of the Graph API and then create a problem for the MSPs, because we want to get a contributor or a level of access. They don't know us because we're sitting behind the MSP, and then the security people get involved and go, who are these guys? And everything gets delayed and it doesn't work.
And there's a gazillion questions.
It has to be a majorly compelling reason to do that. Now, I could say, well, we would do it if we wanted to do license management or we wanted to do AVD and certain things that sit within the Graph API. But you know what? Nerdio is there.
Yes.
They do that really well. So there's no need for us to be replicating another vendor that's way ahead of us and has been focusing in on this for years. So we stick to what we're good at and what we want to address.
I wish more vendors did that.
That's more clouds. That's bringing more value, in terms of the product that we have. And I'm not going to say we're going to stay static in what we do, but I'm not going to complicate my life by bringing security from a third party who I may never speak to
who's evaluating whether the product can be effectively rolled out,
Yeah.
unless it's absolutely necessary. Now, we'll always be in a situation where we're least permission. So we might go to, if we did eventually do things that needed an agent or whatever else, you go and you come down again.
Yeah.
But even going for a minute is enough to bring the eyes,
trigger
especially
them.
as you move
Yep.
towards the enterprise, especially as you move towards bigger companies. You know that the bigger the company you deal with, the more the process is there, and
Yes, the
lot of the
more red
times-
tape, the more everything else.
and the assessment
loops
you've
you
just
jump
done that
through.
has a whole pile of savings in it, by the time you're allowed to actually do anything with it, it's out of date and you got to start again.
Yeah.
And so
So is your system constantly assessing then,
yeah.
or so it's not just run like the older school systems where you run a scan and then you have to rerun
God,
a
no,
scan?
no.
It's constantly looking, it's
and
constantly
if you
assessing.
do anything in Azure, you can manually update everything so it's reflected in the platform.
Oh wow.
So, sometimes people are doing work in Azure, or they're deploying new servers, or maybe they're doing a well-architected review, or, lots of things can be, especially in bigger environments, that can be changing that on a daily basis. Now, we update twice a day anyway.
Yep.
But if you've done something and you want it reflected in the analytics or in some
Straight
sort of
away,
cost,
you
you
can
can
go.
just go in and manually do it as well. Yeah.
Wow.
But we update the entire environment, different parts of the environment. Some is minutes, like utilization and performance side, and other parts of it's hours, and other parts of it's twice a day. It just depends on what part of the environment and how often it needs to be updated, But generally, we're always counting, yeah.
Wow. And we're at PAX 8 Beyond, obviously, here in Berlin, Germany. How has the event been for you so far? With what's the feedback been like from other MSPs that are here and that sort of thing?
Definitely the most successful event we've done to date. We've had about, I think, 70 or 80 MSPs that have come to us and all, shown interest. When you're making their life easier, you're giving them, making it easier to win business and manage business. It's a compelling
no-brainer.
proposition. And then it's our job to kind of, take them through it and onboard them in the right way and let them see, and what we do. What I like about the NFR is that. We use the NF4. The only rule with the NF4 is the MSP has to use it on its own domain.
Yep.
So they do a demo, they take the NF4, and the worst they come out of it is saving a few quid on their own environment. So like it's not exactly a huge ask, right? They get to see the state of their own affairs before they go out and
Practice
talk to
what you
customers.
preach.
Yeah, exactly. So it's worked really well. We've a lot of demos. We've nearly over 24 demos booked or planned to be booked with MSPs across the world. It's in Canada, it's in Germany, we've once in Singapore. So events like this are brilliant because they are our bailiwick. They are the exact attendees that a product like us targeting a market like that needs. And you know what? They just do it really well.
Yeah, amazingly well.
Yeah.
In the fact of when I walked in, we flew in on Saturday, and when I landed and we walked into the hotel, we looked at it. It was like, actually looks as though it's a PAX 8 hotel.
It looks like their office.
It doesn't look as though it doesn't look as though they've just stuck a sticker on and gone, we're here, and put up some signs. Actually, you know, and it's like, oh, this is a PAX 8 office or a PAX 8 building. It looks really much like that.
But I went to Beyond last year. It was the first time I was ever really in the kind of sphere of that was their first one.
Yeah.
And then I was at the second one. You notice the difference. It doubled in every sense, right? But I was sitting there, and I won't mention his name, but there was another Irish guy there, and the two of us were kind of at the event looking at it, and both of us had kind of come from the more enterprise. Like my MSP was very focused on the enterprise because Ireland is really a big collection of FDI. There's huge amounts of American multinationals there, so you always kind of you have guys that focus on the mid-market and you have guys that focus on the enterprise. And when we were joking, we never bump into each other because we're both in the same customers, just doing different things,
Okay, yeah.
We were talking about distribution. I was like, I'm just like, this is weird. I said, why? He goes, have you noticed? And he was like, what? He goes, have you noticed? He goes, yeah, their customers like them. I was like, I know. They actually see value,
Yeah.
It's like I've spent 25 years arguing with my distributor who gives me no value other than logistics and credit. I hand the bombs, I hand the designs, I do everything, and then there's a margin argument, and and then off I go. And really, it's a logistics thing. The value had gone from the distribution market; it wasn't there anymore. It was the same thing from different distributors. There was nothing, very little unique that they would do that would bring something to the party.
Yeah.
And it really became a race to the bottom, which is why you saw a lot of them consolidate and merge and buy each other, and everything became a volume-based margin.
Yeah.
Exactly. along comes PAX8's and similar products like that. And I go to the event and I'm realizing actually value is now coming back into the channel, whether it's consolidated billing, whether it's advice, whether it's helping them grow their business, whether it's training, we're beginning to see the distribution market has returned to the channel is seeing value again.
Yeah.
And I think that was really, really refreshing to see. And I was saying to the guys, I said, if I still had an MSP, I'd certainly be talking to them because the channel is now becoming a partnership again, not a purchasing route that vendors direct you to use. And I know it might sound harsh to the arrows and all that of this world, but
you're bang on the nail, because it is.
That was my experience. I don't know if that's your experience.
Yeah, with all the other, and I call them disties because I don't really class PAX8 as a distie.
No, but if you kind of classify where they are,
exactly.
It's more of a marketplace. But
it is marketplace.
I get what your point, but ultimately the MSPs are using them instead of a distie.
Yes, 100%. And it's like I've worked with some of the other big names as much as you probably have the other disties, and it always seemed to me as though they were divide and conquer on their MSPs, as in we don't want our MSPs to talk to each other because we've got a different pricing model for them and a different pricing model for them, and we can't have them talking together, and they should feel as though they're in competition with each other and that competitiveness. And I've always felt that I don't have any competitors. I have other MSPs who probably do some different stuff to what I do, and actually there's probably some synergy, and there's some stuff that I could do that they don't do, and there's some stuff that they can do that I can't do. And it seems as though, to me, PAX8 have brought that together in a community.
Well, they've grown through getting them to talk to each other.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different approach.
Massively so, which has shocked me. I've been a partner of PAX8 now for 3.5 years since they moved into the UK, and it's a completely different experience.
Right. Interesting.
And it is that thing of actually their partners do like them, and I don't think I've had.
But it's easy once there's value for both sides. That's a partnership.
100%.
It's not a partnership if you have no sense of value. It's really just a relationship that will go away as soon as
somebody else offers something cheaper, because it is that thing
there's no stickiness to that scenario.
There's no appreciation is what's the problem in the
basically what's
channel.
happened is there's a bridge, you've built there's a moat around your customers, that whole saying, there's just a bridge there waiting for someone to cross it, and I think that's happened in the market, like especially in the software, clearly, right? And licensing and license management. It was great to see this here, like some of the technologies and the vendors that are at it. You really see people just thinking outside the box and not just saying, oh, that's a good idea, actually doing something about it. And
what I liked about it was
great vendors here.
There's vendors that aren't on the line card, so they're not on the PAX8 line card.
Right,
there's vendors that are not the PAX8 do not sell as of yet, or there is no intention of selling, and they're here. Some of the PAX8 competition are here, put in the far corner, but they were here. But it is that thing. I think it is community. It is that thing of bringing us back together, that we can all talk together. And I've learned tons from other MSPs by sitting down and having a drink and having a chat with them. And way more than, I've been in business 16 years, and any other MSPs in the past that I've spoken to have been very cagey, very like, I don't want to tell you what I'm using because like you might start using it and then you might come after my clients or that type of stuff. But here it seems as they are really, all of you talk together.
And I think these events are becoming increasingly important because we've got VARs globally that are trying to progress their business, to digitize them, be an MSP, and move their business along. Towards that. So these events are really important for them to, as they start off on that journey, to know what tools they should be using. And then the PAX8 are very, very good at putting on all of these kind of informate the boot camps, the mission briefings, everything else to help VARs as well as MSP. So a lot of people are aspiring to be an MSP, but they don't know where to start. So working with a PAX8 is a great place to start.
Because
they can tell you what's successful and the good, the yings and the yangs, and what's good and what's bad.
I wish I'd have had that when I started my MSP.
That was a
16 years ago.
nightmare.
I wish I'd have had like the academy and the stuff that Pax8. If I'd have had that 16 years ago when I started,
ISV,
I'd be way ahead of what I am
us as an
now.
ISV, you as an MSP.
Yeah.
The value at the beginning is the help that you get. The value at the beginning is the help that you get to avoid the mistakes
Yeah.
that you would have ultimately made.
Yeah.
Right.
And I made tons of them.
And that could be the wrong technology chosen. It could be doing the service in the wrong way.
Yep.
It could be a commercial proposition you just didn't get on point.
Yep.
There's lots of things. It could be how you structure your teams. There's, and we all, everything, whether it's a piece of software or it's a service, it evolves constantly. It's never done.
Yeah.
And
Software
and
more.
help
Yeah.
is important.
Yeah, massively so. I think that's been key and beneficial. I think I've said this so many times over this last week, but we've grown as a company. I can probably quantify it down to about 25-30% more than what we would have grown if we hadn't been a Pax8 partner.
And what's the key thing that's driven that, do you think, in terms of the relationship? What's it delivered that's been the change that allowed you grow?
So product sets, knowledge on product sets and knowing. So our SOCO and I've come back to this a few times, our SOCO at Pax8 is amazing. She is a legend, but she is very much, if we're talking about, we do a lot of cybersecurity stuff. And if we're talking about software, and I'll say to her, right, so you've got 3 different things on your product line that all basically do the same thing. Which one should I use? Which one? And she will sit and she will have a conversation. She's like, okay, so what's the aim? Where are we going to? And she breaks it down and she'll go, right, so if you want to do this and you want to hit these key points, then you need this piece of software. And sometimes it's a piece of software that's not even on their line card. She will turn around and go, you need this piece of software. And it's that invaluable
get the right answer,
advice.
not the one they want to get.
Not just trying to sell you a product, not just going, oh yeah, you need this one, you need to fit into this box and you need to put it on this one. If they haven't got the product, she will still point us in the right direction of the product so that we get the right product, so that we can give the right solution, which makes us invaluable to our clients. They're just like, yeah, okay, you've solved we're a solution provider. We like providing solutions as a whole. I don't like fitting clients into a box and going, oh, you're a 15 user client, so therefore you must have this, and this. No, because you can't do that. It's not a rubber stamp. You have to look at each client, each business with its nuances.
But it could be a 15 user client in a retail shop, or it could be a trading floor or a hedge fund.
Exactly. Two different animals that you have to deal with. And having that experience and that knowledge to actually have somebody to lean on, for my engineers to have like the academy that I can put them so that they can train on certain different bits and they can understand things, and the vendor relationships. So when before we were with Pax8, when we would go to our disty and go, right, we need this. Okay, here's your product. We never get to talk to the vendor. So if it was whatever product, an antivirus product, if it was an EDR, whatever it was, the disty always sat in the middle and there was this, boy, if you've got a problem, you come to us, we'll go to them, they'll come to us, we'll pass it back. That middleman situation, which is like Chinese whispers, lost in translation. Things get lost in translation.
Just speed ramps on a road.
Exactly. And they're just in the way. Whereas with Pax8, if I've got an issue with a product or I've got something that's not quite doing something that I expect it to do, they're like, okay, let's pull in the vendor. Let's have a call. Let's da-da. And we know all of our vendors. I know all of my account managers at the vendors, even though Pax8 deals with it.
Yeah.
Because that relationship that they've built with vendors and with MSPs, it's the whole community merged. That's the one thing that really gets me is that, oh, wow, I can actually pick up the phone and go, okay, I need to know more about this, or I need to sort something out here. Okay, let's pull them in. Let's have a conversation. And there is none of that. Oh no, you can't talk to our vendors with that blocking or that gating of being able to talk direct to the vendor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important.
Yeah, massively important. So I think those things are kind of the key to what's helped us grow over the last 3.5 years.
Yeah, and one of the things I think from our MSP side that we're doing as well, like I suppose what our knowledge of it is that you can't as a vendor expect the distributor to do everything, right? To come up with everything. So what I'm trying to do is, because I see everything, in the cloud, I see an awful lot of things that I can't actually do anything with. So if I see issues with security, or I see issues with backup, or I see issues with, firewalls or whatever it might be. There's certain things that naturally our product just can't deal with. So what I said
and
to the
your
guys
eyes
is,
naturally see it because of the MSP background.
Yeah, and I know there's going to be users in my customers that are just do backup. So I said to the guys, actually, we're seeing a lot of those. Just separate them out from operational efficiency and just have a backup tile with just backup issues, because the backup guy only wants the backup issues. Let's not use the filter. Let's know it's big enough to deal with that, because our use case, that's a big area for a lot of MSPs. There's a lot of managed services sold in that space. But then what we've done now is we've started to look at, well, how do we build solutions to give to Pax8 that for their MSPs, right? So I actually then picked up the phone to Red Store. And said to Red Store, I said, look, I'm seeing a lot of backup issues. I think we could, we've a lot of complementary capabilities, right? I'm looking at the cloud, you're looking at data backup and resiliency and all of those things. You're doing, we're both MSP focused vendors. Why don't we put a solution together? Let's have our support people talking with each other and actually package a solution to the MSPs, rather than them this constant situation where they're buying everything in isolation, and they're both parts of the same jigsaw. So why wouldn't the maker of that jigsaw talk to the other guy who designs that? That sort of approach.
Yeah, got you.
And so we're doing that. We're going to do it with others as well, because
that's perfect.
we're
a Red Store
complementary
house,
to most ISVs. The only ones we really compete with are our direct competitors. But outside of that, I feel if we can work with the other ISVs in those logical places. So the obvious two are backup and security. But the first one we're doing is with with Red Store, and that was announced yesterday. And there's another one we're doing as well with with another product that's just joined the Pax8 marketplace, which I love, which is targeting more the MSPs, yes, but obviously the ISV community, which is a company called RevScale. And they have a sort of an AI lead generation automation platform that integrates with a lot of the things they're doing in terms of lead generation, and bringing a really, really effective AI tool around all of that. So what I'm doing again is I'm optimizing your business, your bottom line with Calibrate, and we're freeing up funds to help you grow your business with increased automation and tools in your lead generation and your prospecting. So take two things that seem unrelated, but actually if you put them together and you put it in terms of the use case of who you're trying to sell to, it's like, well, hold on, if we can find the savings here, then you invest it in tools to help you grow your business.
Become solutions.
So I'm optimizing my cost, and I'm investing that saving in growing my business and having more leads and increasing it, but not necessarily adding 6 salespeople. There's really effective tools there that can help your existing guys be way more effective, generate more opporunities.
It's the question I get all the time about
that was
AI.
an easy solutions brief to write, man. I'm telling you, we did it in about 15 minutes because it was just an obvious sort of, grow your bottom, optimize your bottom line, grow your top line, and it was.
It's what we all want.
But I like this idea of partnerships. I like this idea of not just people buying the two products, but we do it in a way that allows us to actually have our lines of communication open, so that problems do actually happen. That it's not a case if that's a Red Store problem or that's a Kalibr8 problem. It's don't leave it to us.
No
we'll
blame
talk.
game. We saw it. So I own a telecoms company as well as an MSP. And the reason I own a telecoms company is because I was sick and tired of the blame game of, oh no, it's not a telecoms problem, it's an IT problem. Or it's not an IT problem, it's a telecoms problem. It's all the same bloody problem.
Finger pointing.
So I own a telecoms company that services all of my client base and more clients that aren't on my IT, but services all of my client base, so that no matter who they've got a problem, they pick up the phone, and if it's not a telecoms problem, the telecoms support team picks up the phone to my IT support team, has a conversation, and solves the problem for the client without the client having to be a middleman, and gives a solution. And that sounds like what you're doing with Kalibr8 and Red Store and the other ones. It's like, that's that's proactive, that can
Proactive,
only help everybody, and especially the client at the end of the day, because the client gets a better service or a better quality of service, and the MSP gets technically one pane of glass to see their problems.
Exactly. And if the user has to go log into your platform and search for the reasons of why they logged into your platform, that's not a proactive product.
No.
You need to serve up your value every time and make it easy, And if that is starting a telecoms business to get rid of the friction that your customers are having, well, then that's brilliant.
It was a massive frustration. We had so many problems, and we just got to the point where I just sat there and I went, this isn't working. This is not functioning. It causes us too many problems. Where my team are quite fast at handling problems. If a problem arises, they want it solved there and then. They want it done for the client. They want the solution done. Working with other telecoms partners, it's like, oh yeah, so we've spoken to them. We need them to do X, Y, and Z because we don't have control of whatever. And it takes ages, and the client still sat there with the same problem, can't get it solved. And it was like, no, this doesn't work. Let's see what we can do to actually put together something that works. Right? Telecoms company. Didn't want to ever own a telecoms company. I didn't come out and go, oh yeah, I'm going to own telecom. No, but it solves the problem. And it seems like that's what you guys are doing at the same time with partnering with Redstone. You're looking and you're going, that's a problem. It needs to be solved.
Yeah, so we want to curate those solutions with products that we know fit the MSP use case.
Yep.
They don't have to go searching. And also we've got common distribution layers at the back end, so we can integrate it into the existing bill, the same as how they bought our product.
Yeah.
So again, we're removing the frictions. That they say, oh, we've lots of backup problems. They'll have to go bring somebody and go, well, what vendors should we be using? Most of the time, they'll just buy Azure. Maybe the advice might be buy Azure backups. That's not necessarily the right way to go.
Not
either.
always, no.
And so what we want is to say, well, look, you can take these recommendations. You can see that Azure has a solution for it, but you know what? There's alternatives. Here's the alternatives. And then I want to have a situation where I don't just say, just go talk to those guys. I want to have a situation where I'm like, we'll bring you to those guys.
Yeah.
And we have done our research and we know that these guys can solve this problem. Now, the security side, we're not necessarily as experienced with.
Okay.
Backup, I know my backup. And I know products that can solve the problem. So that's why we started there. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's music to an MSP's ears to hear that sort of stuff. So one final thing for you. What do you see? And I've asked everybody that we've spoken to this week. At the end, I've asked them this question. Is there one thing or one piece of advice that you would give to an MSP or a business owner out there in something that can be help them either be more effective or something they should do or shouldn't do that can help them?
Never be afraid to ask for help.
Love it. Love it. Because we shouldn't.
There's a lot of people that start businesses and kind of feel like they have to do it all themselves.
Yeah, can't talk to anybody, can't ask anybody for help.
Like I can tell you now, we'd be nowhere without the collective team. And a lot of that team came on board because I wasn't afraid to reach out to somebody I'd never met before, but I knew could bring value to my business.
If you don't ask, you don't get, right?
And have a conversation.
Yeah.
And if trust me, if you ask for help, you will avoid mistakes. And a lot of mistakes when you're starting a business can be death nails.
Oh yeah.
And so it's the ones that you avoid that increase your likelihood of success. And nobody starts a business and knows everything. So
I didn't start a business to be a businessman. I was an IT engineer and wanted to service people better than what the company I was working for at the time.
Yep.
And I've had to grow into being a businessman. I've had to grow into understanding marketing and understanding finance.
When I say never be afraid to ask for help as well, it's like you can translate that also to know your weaknesses and be bloody honest with yourself about your weaknesses.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I had 3 accountants on my board for a reason because I'm shite at accounting. Right? So I made damn sure that I had people in my business that filled that gap that I clearly had. I was more the strategy and a commercial person, so there was not things that didn't come natural to me. And I'm the kind of person, if I'm not really interested in it, I probably won't get good at it.
No.
I can train myself to be better, but ultimately,
there's better, more
if the
experienced
interest
people that
isn't
can
there,
do it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is down to know your weaknesses, but a huge amount of it is ask for help, because a lot of the time it's because
Pride
it's
is a
around
big
something
thing.
that you're not good at, and you haven't asked for help to fix that issue, or to understand that part of what you're trying to achieve. And I say that very vaguely because it's a very broad answer.
Yeah,
right?
of course. Yeah.
So I'd say it's a multifaceted answer that ends with never be afraid to ask for help. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. And Ben, thank you for coming on to our podcast.
No problem.
And we will be speaking in the future.
Absolutely.
Because I can just see tons of benefits for your service.
Thank you very much, and glad to hear it. And thanks for asking me to come on.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.